we're 99% sure I was the youngest reporter for TalkSport, but I think I can add that extra 1% to saying I'm the youngest commentator for TalkSport only a few weeks or about a month ago now. So if ever an opportunity comes about, no matter what it is, never say no. Just never say no. It was the first time where week in, week out, I was going to sold out games, to full stadiums, commentating, and I'm like, oh, do you know what? Let's get in touch with the people there. Let's maybe ask the cheeky question: is there potentially a chance for a first team game? All of a sudden, later that afternoon, I got an email saying, Swansea away, are you available to commentate?
It's the second time I've done this, so here we go. Tyler Morris on the podcast, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me. Although that's the second time I've said this now, I do generally appreciate it. You're someone who is inspiring for a lot of young commentators, and we go back a bit, 2 years. I remember our first job together. Do you remember that? I won't be offended if not, though.
Was it at Crystal Palace?
It was a few months before Crystal Palace. It was a few months. I'm hurt.
It was at Stamford Bridge. That's why.
Stamford
because I'm
Bridge.
a QPR man. That's why I'm forgetting Stamford Bridge.
Yeah,
I'm
good
QPR.
man.
That's my excuse.
Good man. Absolutely. You've been taken into the QPR family, which we'll get onto in a bit. But yeah, the Stamford Bridge game. Oh, well, the Chelsea under-21s Premier League International Cup. We were sat there where the radio do their commentary, and I remember at the beginning we just got into the ground, and like there was loads of nice food, and it gave me a proper taste of what could be to come if you make it as a pro commentator. But anyway, mate, thank you for joining me. Obviously, on this podcast we get people on like yourself who are at the start and already making serious waves in the commentating industry. So we'll get to it. We'll get to the start. You're at Bournemouth University, so take me from when you started to think about commentating to then your time at uni, and then why you left.
So it was actually when I was in sixth form where I went serious for the first time. I was, oh, hold on, let's try and give it a go of being a commentator. I was then coming to the end of my A levels, or halfway through my A levels, and then towards the end, so I had to think about what my next stages were. And like or most people, your first thought is uni, and it's just, oh, sports journalism. Yeah, that goes along with commentary. I don't want to say it was a mistake going. I didn't enjoy it there. I ended up dropping out before the end of my first year. But there are opportunities or certain people I got in contact with that I might not have, for example, sent an email to the person I did at Leicester, which was a big first step for me if I had never gone to uni, because I might not have had the time to do so. So I don't regret it, but I just didn't enjoy it, left it, and then commentary it all kind of fell into place timing wise after leaving university.
So what was your first paid gig, and how did you actually come about that just after you finished uni?
Believe it or not, no. So I got paid for it while I was actually doing my last year of A levels was my first year,
Yes.
and that was the flash score and live score stuff, which I
Yes.
actually found on Indeed. So that was my first job in commentary. I found on Indeed, so football commentator. I'd just been rejected from like a big like internship at HSBC because I was into my economics and that stuff when I was at that age. So how different things could have been if I was accepted onto that. But I got rejected later that day. I'm like, oh, let's just look at jobs. And I was like, oh, football commentator. That's something I love. And then applied for it, got it. And then yeah, that was my first paid job, was the stuff from home, doing commentating on Premier League games for Flash Score and Live Store, and a really, really nice start for me.
And how long were you doing that for?
I think 2 years.
2 years.
Maybe two and a half. Maybe 2.5.
Sure. And obviously after that then, you then came into, was it your instant replay? Is that the trajectory early on?
Yeah,
Nice.
so it overlapped towards the end where, do you know Dean?
Dean Kilford.
I don't know if he's still, that's it, yeah.
Yes, so he's part of the GB Vision lot as well, who do the flash score and live score.
He was there when I was there as well, and he sent a message saying, "Oh, we need a commentator at this event at Tottenham's training ground." And I know me growing. I think this was well out there now that I did grow up a Spurs fan. So at the time, I'm like, oh my God, commentate at Tottenham's training ground, blah blah blah, and I sent the message, and it happened. I didn't actually have any signal to send, so I sent the message, and it wasn't going through, and I was panicking. I was like running around. So, but it went through. It happened, and that was my first gig for Europe Replay. It was actually the Premier League Next Generation Cup, which was what
Mate,
we
of
did together, which
course.
I'm sure we'll get onto. So,
Yeah, of
but it was
course.
just the one 2 years earlier at Tottenham, and that was my first venture there. So yeah.
And then when you joined your instant replay, I take it, did you start to then reduce your hours doing flash score and live score, or did you do them both at the same time for a period?
There was a point where I was doing them quite a lot for the same time. So there was a lot. There was a good amount of kind of West Ham Friday night games, and I'll do a Saturday game still with GB Vision. So there was a lot of overlap, particularly towards the start.
Sure, sure. And for those that obviously don't know, GB Vision is an employer that I currently work for. Tyler obviously just saying there how he's done work for them. And then your Instant Replay, of course, another company based in Sussex, which I've done work for. You, of course, have done work for, which has given us some great memories. I mean, you mentioned there about the Premier League Next Gen Cup, going up to Birmingham and the Aston Villa training ground for 4 days. That was a marvellous time a couple of summers ago. So that's one that lives in the memory. Us two commentating on some scaffolding on I think it was been some of the Indian teams. I can't remember their names now, but I remember Muthoot FC and Stellenbosch, who ended up winning
Stellenbosch, I remember from South Africa in particular because QPR signed one of their players who was at that tournament, which I don't know if you knew that or not. So
I've forgotten the name, but I saw on your Instagram that you had put that up, and I did think, oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So that was quite a full circle moment in some ways. Yeah.
I mean, I think you've had plenty of full circle moments. So going forward then, so GB Vision, doing the flash score, live score, now your instant replay. When did you first start to commentate with Leicester and, of course, then QPR?
So my first one with Leicester was about 6 months after that first Your Instant Replay one. It was around December time. It was when I was still at uni. It was a women's game. I did a few women's games to start off with. Um, really enjoyed them. It was my first chance to go to King Power Stadium. I went to Villa Park, so some really cool grounds to go to. And then I think it was after I'd left uni, I studied for my NCTJ separately for 6 months or 4 months, I think, between September and December. And I'm like, oh, do you know what? Let's get in touch with the people there. Let's maybe ask the cheeky question: is there potentially a chance for a first team game? All of a sudden, later that afternoon, I got an email saying Swansea away. Are you available to commentate? And I'm like, oh my God, this is literally the dream. Being in a sold out stadium doing a men's first team game, like this was it. And that was October 2023. So that was then
Wow.
the big step into a first team game.
So I didn't know this about you, Tyler. Do you have an NCTJ, or was that something you trialed? So you got
Yes, so I was going to get it with my uni degree, but obviously dropped out of uni. I'm like, hold on, if I can do it in 6 months, I'll
Yeah.
just do it in 6 months without having to live at uni for 3 years, which just wasn't my thing at the time at all.
Okay, so you got the NCTJ. Have you felt like
Mm.
that's impacted your commentary so far? Of course, it got you into doing Leicester, but have you felt that that's contributed to any of your successes of recent?
If I'm honest, I I don't want to put anyone against it because it's a great thing to have. It in terms of my commentary career, it hasn't done anything because that has all been me kind of getting in touch with people and developing it and building it. But that was almost a good thing to have for if commentary didn't work out. Okay, I've got my qualification. I can do other things within media, within sport. So it was almost like a backup, but a really important backup.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so the NCTJ, you've then got Leicester. You did that for how long? I think a season or two.
So I still do it. To be fair, I'm
Still
still
do
part
it.
of
Brilliant.
their pool. They I feel like they've got their main two, and I feel like I'm if obviously Saturday 3 p.m. conflicts a lot with QPR, but if QPR gets moved or they get moved and their main two aren't available, then so I think I've done 2 this season, 2 last season. So it's, a few here and there for them.
Okay. And now the big one, of course. I think, is it fair to say QPR is definitely your biggest job at the moment in terms of just the sheer amount of hours you do for them?
Yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
100% my main one. It's actually interesting how it came along. It was so I did that Swansea game for Leicester. The next week, Leicester also wanted me for that game, which was QPR away. And it was just at that point where QPR needed a new commentator. I had spoken to the media manager about a year and a half before, and he really liked the sound of my commentary, but he just didn't have anything at the time. So I've always wondered that if I never went back there with Leicester, would he have remembered, oh, yeah, Tyler, I forgot about him, kind of thing. Yeah, he's here with Leicester. I remember him. Let's offer it. Because it was only a few weeks later that he asked me to be the club commentator. So I wonder if I never went back with Leicester, or if I never sent that email to Leicester asking for a first team commentary, then I wouldn't have got QPR away that next week. And then I might not have been asked to be the club commentator of QPR. So it's just those little things that have done so much, and it's like by chance, and that's the bit of luck I've almost had.
Oh, for sure, and I think that's going to be a theme with all these episodes, especially with you. You make your own luck, of course. I think it'd be a bit of a discredit to just say it's just luck, but clearly you had something about you. Your voice was really good, and that's why you were able to stick in his head. So then, yeah, I think it's great when I see all of the stuff you do on YouTube, the behind the scenes, everything you do with Andy Sinton. That's his surname, isn't it? Sint, yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
how's QPR been? What's that whole journey been like?
It's been incredible. To the point it's changed the team that I support for the rest of my life. So
Wow, that's big.
I'm associated with my family with um with QPR quite literally. Like in birthday cards, there's always like a "Come on, you R's" at the end of it and something like that. So it's that's how much I've loved it. It's been incredible. It was the first time where week in week out I was going to sold out games, to full stadiums, commentating, and then you also feel part of the team. At first, it was a relegation fight we were in. We've had little little
Yeah,
bits in terms of in around the playoffs this season, which is great, and you're so invested in it, and it's just it's amazing.
it's like you're part of the family. I see the birthday cake
Mm.
sometimes, but you really are. And how's your relationship with Andy Sinton? I mean, it seems like you've got something really good going.
Yes, no, honest, I'm so grateful for our relationship. I love him. I love him to bits. Like he's great to be on commentating with. Firstly, I love it. Every time we score, the little Sinton scream, um, and even just kind of off the gantry. He's always up for a laugh, kind of thing. So no, it's just great.
And just for those who don't know, can you just tell the listeners who Andy Sinton is, and obviously what you do?
So at the moment he's the club ambassador at QPR. So he's who does the co-commentary with me for QPR every game. He was an incredible player back in the 90s for QPR. Played for Spurs. Played for Wolves. Oh, there's I shouldn't have gone into that because there's a lot of teams. Sheffield Wednesday. So
Yeah.
a whole list of teams that he's played for. So a very well-known winger. Scored the first ever goal to be televised on Monday Night Football. That's an interesting fact about him. So yeah.
I mean, that's just a brilliant commentator's stat, isn't that? That's brilliant. Of course, you pull that out of the bag. Quality. So the QPR stuff going, you and Andy Sinton doing a brilliant job in the gantry at Loftus Road. What's it like? You do some of the post match interviews. Is that
Yes.
is that
Yeah.
right? And you do a few bit of
Yeah.
the
Do all
social
the
media.
post-match interviews. So
Nice.
yeah, post-match interviews I do. They are either enjoyable or really unenjoyable, depending on the result. There's been some tough ones in there, that's for sure. Um, and in terms of social media side, so I do my own stuff in terms of YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, so on, and all that stuff. And then for QPR stuff, I do a little promo about half an hour before kickoff. Like join us on QPR Plus if you can't make it to the game, and we do a few other little collabs here and there, like ComsCam in particular was
Yes.
something I did, something they did a couple of times over like the 2 years before I joined, but something I did a lot on my own with Leicester, and we just were like, yeah, let's every time we win, there will always be a ComsCam now.
Oh, exceptional, exceptional. So that's that. That's with QPR. Then, of course, you've had some really big gigs recently with Sky and with TalkSport. I think you were the youngest ever presenter or commentator slash reporter on TalkSport. Is that right? Or at
I
least one of
believe
them,
so.
surely.
We're 99% sure I was the youngest reporter for TalkSport, but I think I can add that extra 1% to saying I'm the youngest commentator for TalkSport only a few weeks
Brilliant.
or about a month ago now. So that was big, and the Sky Sports have been really or felt really big. That there's two places that I've over the years been in contact with and been really eager and been trying to push at them like, please, can I get an opportunity kind of thing, and they've both happened this season. And I mean, my Sky ones, I think I've done at least 10 Sky games, which I'm really chuffed with for my first season. So no, it's been a really nice introduction to the major broadcasting world this season.
For sure. And how long you're talking about the challenges there? What was it like having to network with these individuals, and how long would it really take you from the first time you contacted Sky to then eventually getting a job? What did you have to go through? Because I'm sure a lot of people listening will probably be in those same shoes, wanting to make that move. I mean, I know I'm wanting to make that move as well. So how did you go about it, and how would you recommend those to
So
go
for
about it as well?
me, I managed to get an opportunity. Again, it was while I was just about still at uni, I think January time 2024, I was invited into Shadow. And I thought, oh, here we go, I'm in kind of thing. And I guess it was a year and a half after that where I was given an opportunity. I was constantly trying to plug away, like, oh, can I get a game? I've done this now, I've done that now. So I've really tried to push for it, and then um, the gentleman who runs it said to me, yeah, no, I've seen how far you've come. I'm going to add you to the rota or add you to get your availability, and let's see if we can get you something. So, and then that was my first one, I think, in September this season. So it was a good year and a half after I came into Shadow, which I think was already a good maybe 6 months after I first got in contact. So I guess that's, well, 2 years in that sense.
Yeah. And then Talk Sport, how's that been? And what was the game you did the other day?
It was Luton against Northampton, Virtue Trophy semi-final.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
that one felt massive to me because I've been in contact with the TalkSport editor since I would have been 17, I believe.
Wow.
So how long? That's almost 5 years. And he was the first person to ever, I don't want to say to ever criticize my commentary, but to ever give me constructive criticism. Um, and that was something that like hit me at the time a little bit, but I was also happy at the time. It's like, okay, good, I can improve kind of thing. And he's the first person I now go to ask for like a review or advice on my commentary because I know he's going to give me something honest, which is exactly what I want to improve. And I've always dropped the little hints of, I'd love to do a game, but and so on. And yeah, it happened what in start of March, I think, and that that because of how long that's been, almost 5 years, that's like, wow, I've finally kind of done it,
Made
kind of
it.
thing.
Or yeah, done that. Yeah, you've got on that ladder and can just keep on
Mm.
climbing. And were you with a co-commentator that Luton Northampton game, or was it just yourself?
Yes. I was with a co-commentator, Kevin Watson, used to play for Spurs, and
Okay.
yeah, so he I enjoyed working with him. To be fair, as I have done with pretty much every
Yeah.
co-commentator I've been alongside.
And how do you find that, making that shift from just being on mains yourself, like you would have done in your early days, to then being in co-commentary? What was that change like, and how do you find it now compared to the first time you had a co-commentator with you?
So I think that for anyone listening and for myself commentating, always so much better with a co-commentator because you're almost bouncing off each, especially if it's radio, you're bouncing off each other. When it's radio, it's a non-stop conversation. You can't have a longer break than 2 seconds, if that. So it's great to have a co-commentator, and even on a TV style game, it they add that you kind of add, you don't want to be too descriptive for TV style, but you add a bit of color, and they kind of add the analysis and the real football gritty know-how having been there. So I think it's better, yeah, better for both the listener and the commentator.
And just going back a bit, so did you play much football when you were younger? Was that something you did a lot, or were you more
I
commentating?
did in terms of at school, loved it. Never really played for a football team. I did for maybe a couple of years when I was youngish. By that I mean maybe late primary school. Um, didn't really play for a team until my first year of sixth form for 11 aside. Was never very good, so, just to put that out there, but always loved it. If you ask me about
Yeah.
playing football now, I hate it. I hate play.
Oh, really?
It's so weird. I'm as I mean as you know I'm into my fitness and all that kind of stuff,
Yes. Yeah. Of
but I
course.
hate playing football. I hate running. I just walk and go to the gym. So it's a really weird one. If someone asks me to play football, I'm like, I'm usually the one who just sits at the side, kind of sunbathing, this kind of thing. So I can't get myself to playing football anymore, as much as I love football in general.
Yeah, well, you found your passion in football, and that's the main thing. So the Sky Sports is good. What have been some of the standout games you've done for Sky so far? Not in terms of necessarily the actual fixture itself, but in terms of the excitement.
So firstly, my first one, which oh my god, I forget. It was Wickham against Colchester. I almost forgot. I knew it was Wickham, but yeah, Wickham against Colchester. The fact it was another one of those moments of I've pushed for so long to have this, and now I've got this commentary. So that was an exciting one. I think I had a 95th minute winner in the Virtue Trophy. Stockport, who were in the final, yeah, scored 90 plus minute winner, which was probably the best moment I've had for Sky. Um, so yeah, that's what I'd say for it.
Exceptional. So now going forward, what has it been like? Well, not necessarily going forward, but what has how have your prep? How's your prep come along? So how you prepare for games compared to the beginning and now? Have you made many differences? Have you got any go tos? And how long does it usually take you to do a full match preparation?
So I've actually done a whole loop in terms of how I first started with the Flash Score games. It was all handwritten. I'd do it a lot when in my kind of what's it called, free lessons, free periods at school. Um, and then I went more to the on-screen stuff, which I use for QPR because you're doing the same team every week to handwrite everything out every
Yeah,
week is would be not very productive. So I mean I know this is a podcast, but I can show
well,
you,
mate,
but
we'll put it on
I'll talk
YouTube. So
it.
yeah, let's have a
I'll
look.
I'll talk it out as well to everyone. So this
Yeah,
was, let's see what
brilliant.
game this was. This was MK Dons against Oxford. So this would have been my first FA Cup World Feed game, and that's the
Oh,
kind
yeah, I
of
haven't even
prep
got
it
onto
goes
that.
into. For those
Oh,
listening,
brilliant.
it's kind of for those listening, it's essentially a lot of very small handwriting. It's got facts about every player. It's got the recent results, what their record is in the FA Cup, what their record is in penalties, what's happened if they've got red cards or played against red cards, what's happened if they've conceded the first goal, scored the first goal, and I'm almost
Brilliant.
you've got to prepare yourself for any potential thing that could happen in the game, meaning 80% of it doesn't get used.
But when it does get used, it sounds very good, and it's worth it.
Exactly.
What? So for those listening as well, what kind of sites do you use, especially for finding out about what's happened when red cards have been given? I mean, that's not even something I've thought of, but
So
that's even a good idea.
for that one, I will go on Flash Score and I'll scroll through all their games. And I know on Flash Score you'll see the little red card icon, so I'll
Ah, of
click on that one. Did
course.
they win? Did they
Yes.
lose? And then that's how I do it with the red cards. But I usually start on Transfer Market.
Okay, transfer market. Yeah, that's a classic. That's a classic. Okay, Brill. So yeah, the FA Cup World Feed, was that similar? Was that the same production company as Sky? And well, no, it would just be Sky.
Different company, but same kind of environment. And the person who I got in contact with, I would have been in touch with them potentially before I'd even started with Flash Score. So again, when I was kind of 17 years old, and what am I, 21 now? Again, another 4 years until my first one. Again, it's been a long, frustrating kind of ride in that sense because you're the same. You kind of want to keep progressing. You want
Yeah.
everything now, kind of thing. So the waiting is it's horrible, but yeah, that was a great one back in January.
Do you think, obviously, the QPR job has really helped your progression, but do you think for these people that are obviously looking at your portfolio, that has really helped you be able to now get these gigs at such prestigious
I
broadcasters.
Yeah, I think now being able to say that I've done, 2 years week in, week out commentating in stadiums, um, it's like, okay, they can judge me on how I sound, and they can also now I've got a good amount of experience to kind of
Yeah.
show to them where they're like, yeah, let's give them a go kind of thing. So, and I feel like that's the step that's happened this season.
And what would you say so far has been the best and worst game you've had to commentate on?
Best game. Joe, I'm going to start with the worst so I can end on a high
Go
with
for it.
it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The worst one, it has to be Coventry QPR this season because it was 7-1 to Coventry.
Oh yeah.
It was the no, it was the third game of the season. We hadn't won yet this season. I was also on my own. It was when Annie Sinton had. I mean, this I didn't actually know this at the time because it happened the day before. It was when he had his heart attack, which thankfully he's recovered from, and he's almost doing better than ever, which is great.
Good.
So I was on my own for commentary, and it's like, okay, we're all Rangers fans, kind of listening in, and me commentating as a Rangers fan. It's like, what do I say? Kind of, there's nothing for me to say. Like, it's so I've got to describe everything going on, but you can't really add more into that because you don't want to be too negative because you're working for QPR, but you can't try and find a positive out of losing 7-1. It's just it's stupid. There is no positive. Um, so that was definitely the worst.
And just
Um,
on that, because that's an interesting, that makes me want to go back to another thing you said previously about doing manager interviews and player interviews. What did you do interviews after that defeat to Coventry?
yes, we did. We did a manager interview, and also we interviewed. I think it was Jimmy Dunn after that, and he spoke really well. Luckily, we won. We actually went on, I think, a 6-game unbeaten run after that, so it
Yeah,
actually,
so that
in
got put
some ways,
away.
did us well.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we did the post-match interviews, and that wasn't actually the worst experience. The hardest times with the post-match interviews are if you go on a run of. I think in my first full season at QPR, we went 1 win in 13, and when it gets towards the end of that, and it's like same again kind of thing, and that's when it gets a bit rough, kind of on the post-match interviews.
Do you think maybe though, as you're a QPR employee, you would be treated a bit better than perhaps a Sky broadcaster or journalist? Do you think they've
Yeah,
probably got a
no,
bit more
no,
of a
no.
soft
So
spot?
100% no. They're so the manager or the head coaches, particularly so Julien Stefan at the moment, in terms of how he is to me and to everyone off camera, it seems like he is the same after a win, same after a defeat, and that is just a pure lovely guy in that sense.
Mm.
Same for Marty Cifuentes. After you could tell he
Yes,
was really down after a defeat, but he would still treat everyone around him and like myself with so much respect, say a proper hello to me, and I don't say put a smile on his face, but like kind of be as warming as possible to me, no matter the results. Both the head coaches I've worked with have been absolutely great, but it's not a nice experience being in there, having to ask questions and having to, uh, you want to always are going to put a positive spin when you're working for the club, but even still, it's not nice. No one likes losing, and when you support it, when you're the
yeah,
manager and so on, it's just not it's just not a nice experience after going on a long run without winning.
for sure. Well, on a positive note, you said you wanted to end on a positive with that
Mm.
question. What's been the best game then for QPR or in general?
Best game. Ooh, this is a tough. I'm going to do two parts if you don't mind. So
Go
I'm going to
for it.
start with my best moment, which was Jimmy Dunn in something like the 93rd minute, left-footed on the half volley, flew into the top corner. It was against Birmingham at home towards the back end of the 23-24 campaign. We were fighting for survival with Birmingham. They ended up going down. We stayed up, and that goal to win 2-1 would have played a humongous part. So I'd say that was my number one moment. In terms of a game, I think it would have to be the 4-1 win for us this season over Leicester in terms of a game as a whole, because Marti Cifuentes, who had left us in I have nothing personally against Marti Cifuentes, but you know when former manager leaves
Totally.
from a footballing point of
Yes.
view, and then they come back, you really want to win kind of
Oh,
thing.
totally.
And it was also,
Yeah.
it's also for me, you know, I still commentate for Leicester. I have so much respect for Leicester, but it's also like, I don't know what it is. It's not like returning to a previous club because I still commentate for them, but I feel like
Well,
everyone,
you've got a
everyone
soft
kind of
spot for
looks at,
both.
and look, exactly. So, but in that sense, it was also really nice winning so much because a lot of people think I'm a Leicester fan. I'm not. I'm not. I understand why people think that because I started there, but I'm not a Leicester fan, and it's like I'm going to fully celebrate because I'm a QPR fan, and that's what you do as a football fan. So I'd say the 4-1 this season was just we blew them away in the first half, and that was probably my favourite game.
QPR fan, but a professional commentator for Leicester. That's the difference, I'd say.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And then Tyler, obviously with off tube stuff with Sky, they do it behind you're commentating on a screen, aren't you? You're not actually at the ground.
Yeah.
And how do you find that? Because obviously I do the flash score stuff. I've got a stream up on my computer and sometimes my TV. But when you're actually in that environment, it's a bit similar to what they've got in TalkSport, which I believe you've been to as well. What's that like? Yeah. So what's that experience like?
So firstly, when it's freezing cold, -5 winter time, it's quite nice to be in a nice warm booth. But I find it, for a lot of people starting out and for the first time, especially if they've done it in grounds and then moving to the booths kind of thing, they say it's difficult. They almost whispering a bit much, kind of a bit too much, because it's like it's weird to them shouting in this little room on their own kind of thing. Luckily, because as you know, starting off with GB Vision, I started off doing it remote, not at the stadium, so I was used to that. So for me, I'm completely used to it. I feel like I can do the same job whether it's at the grounds or whether it's in a studio. I prefer personally being at the ground. That's what I'm there for, is being part of the atmosphere, feeling it all. So that's my personal preference, but I feel very comfortable in both.
Brilliant. Well, Tyler, just to finish on, because you've been a brilliant guest, honestly, the energy you're bringing through is incredible. So I have no doubt with that energy going throughout your career, no wonder you're already hitting the heights at 22. But what have you got, like, if you were to give some tips to the listeners, say for those who are just starting out, maybe they're at uni, 17, 18, whatever, what main tips have you got for people wanting to go into commentary and perhaps broadcasting as well?
Firstly, I would say, like these days, and this was something commentator Arlo White, who I really looked up to growing up, he said to me, everyone's got access to film themselves these days, and just find a clip, commentate on it, record it, listen back to it, and firstly, just find a ways. Oh, did I like how I sounded there? Kind of stuff like that, and just keep improving, keep practicing in that sense. Um, if ever an opportunity comes about, no matter what it is, never say no. Just never say no. That's the one thing I would say, unless you've got another commentary, of course, then you can't do both at one time. But never turn something down. Just keep, especially early on, just keep building as much experience as possible. That's kind of probably my number one, I would say.
Yeah, well, I think you embody that. Someone who can take on saying yes and look where you are now. Well, Tyler, top man, thank you so much for joining me. Everyone, I'll put Tyler's socials down in the description below, to his Instagram, YouTube. He does all sorts. So yeah, you've been a great guest, Tyler, so thank you very much.
No, honestly, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Ollie.
Well, what a great guest Tyler was. I knew it'd be fantastic. It was a really good conversation. It was great to catch up with him. Of course, known him for a good couple of years now, and he's absolutely smashing it. He epitomises hard work for any commentator looking to get into the industry. He's already well and truly in it, and he's only going to continue making more moves. I think the conversation we had, that he spoke about how it's really important to say yes to every opportunity you get, and any opportunity that comes your way, really really important bit of advice, because you don't know who you could come across in those opportunities. Even if it doesn't feel massively relevant to what you're wanting to do, you don't know who you could meet, and you don't know what skills you could gain for later on in your career. So a big thank you to Tyler for coming on and giving me his time. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast as much as I have, and I'm looking forward to the next episode already. That'll be out in the next couple of weeks. And thank you for joining me in the first episode, Ollie Audis in the Gantry with Tyler Morris. Please do like, comment, share, all of the above on whatever platform you get your podcasts.